Ladies and gentlemen, it's that time of the month where we take a look at what is to come for the month, plus the beginning of the next one, of course. So, enjoy the video.
Let the lesson begin.
Hey guys, Akariss here, bringing you another Fire Emblem Heroes video. Today's video is going to talk about the coming month and its event schedule, therefore. So, honestly, I don't really think there's that much happening this month, especially because like the update itself kind of foreshadowed that nothing was really happening. So this is probably one of the more dull months, and maybe we'll get a FEH Channel coming into the next month. There might be some hints of that in this calendar, which is definitely what we'll look at. But I'll go over all the things we do know, thanks to good fellows who do data mining. We kind of know what to expect with some of the skills banners. Maybe we know with the reruns, of course, the BHBs also indicate what units to come, and maybe we can speculate on a legendary hero at the end of this month, of course, which should be a water legendary. Which is crazy because if you think about it, water used to be the most oppressive season, and now it isn't. It actually is not. In fact, I would probably say wind happens to be the most oppressive season now, as opposed to water, which I actually have a pretty easy time dealing with, but I think maybe that's chalked up to Anna just being really good of a unit. So yeah, let's start. First up, as we all know, Nott is still on a banner, and therefore you should probably come to a conclusion on whether you should commit to her or not. So this actually lasts until pretty much the end of the month, so it gives you plenty of time to think about it, and I think it actually overlaps, or at least gives you time to think about the legendary hero as well. At least like it should finish just as the legendary hero trailer happens, so you have just enough time to kind of like think about whether committing to her or not is a good idea. Probably most of you already have, but it is still important to talk about. So she shares with Zeke, and the fact that she's on a 4-person banner as opposed to a legendary 12-person banner, which I've discussed many times on the math, means that if you wanted copies of Nott, this would definitely be a solid banner to do it. There's a possibility she gets voted in on like a revival. That's also possible. And of course, I believe Sothis has come back on many Hero Fests, so I don't think that we would be surprised to maybe see her even on something like a Hero Fest. So this may not be the best banner to go for, and of course if she shares with stuff like Dimitri or Cyros or Julia or Crom or whatever your shares are in a legendary mythic banner, there could definitely be better places to save for. What I would recommend though is a Spark, and of course I will cover her in a video plus her mechanic Pathfinder in detail. I'm getting some headway, so that video should be soon, as I've said many times. Maybe tomorrow actually, we'll see. So yeah, maybe you should think about summoning Nott if you haven't already. Next up is the Double Special Heroes banner, which we will be getting this probably within a week or so. And this one, so Odd Recovery, in my opinion, is the most influential defense skill. It defines a good defense, and we just had it with, I believe, I honestly forgot his name already. I think it was Saul, who just kind of came back, and now we're going to have it again with Sephirin and Zane sharing. And there is other stuff there that is worth mentioning. I believe like Winter Altina comes back, sharing with like Degencia or something, but none of that's as important as what I would consider this pair sharing. So it is another opportunity to technically get Odd Recovery. However, I feel like Zane, it hasn't really made his mark on the meta, and therefore it would be a pretty poor share. And maybe we'd wait until Odd Recovery shows up on like a permanent banner. Or if you're still holding on to your Form of Soul, or if you've saved up enough Celestial Stones for a Form of Soul, you might want to consider that's your opportunity to get Odd Recovery, as opposed to gambling with the Clown here. Or maybe even a Spark if Sephirin reruns with that, who knows. But I don't think that this banner is worth even a consideration, the Double Special Heroes, if these two are the ones that share. Would recommend a fairly easy skip on that one. Next up is the Hall of Forms itself, which features Brunia, Laroom, and Winterfey, and I'm sorry, I completely forgot who the fourth one is, but I guess it doesn't matter. So what I do think is worth mentioning for this Hall of Forms is Bronya and Winterfey. So those of you who haven't completed your merges on Bronya and still actively use her can use this as an opportunity to basically fully build out your Bronya and save some grails, potentially gear up her exactly the way you want her to be. But what is worth mentioning as well is for everyone else, Winterfey should unlock the ability for us to get Far Save in the Hall of Forms, along with maybe Ideal skills as well in the A skill. So that is definitely worth a solid consideration. However, I do feel like Winterfey is one of the weakest options you could actually get Far Save, considering she's a green armored dragon with no preference weapon and no chance at getting one. And unfortunately for her, her stat spread isn't that amazing either. She has one of the highest res, but that's shared with Nagi, who has a much better preference weapon that could also get refined and will show up on many more banners. So likely you could being permanent as well. So you'd likely actually add merges to someone like Nagi, whereas Winterfey is not really as good of an option. I feel like this is a beta test to like take out your Form of Souls for Far Save, and there are definitely better armors that will likely happen that you could give Far Save to, such as Black Knight, or even Nagi herself in the future. Maybe Brave Hector happens. We've had a few Braves already. So be careful with this one. Even if you see Far Save on Winterfey, it may not be worth your Form of Soul. However, for those of you that don't have Far Save or missed your chance for it, at least it is a Far Save option, and Far Save is definitely one of the best options to have on AR offense, and a decent one for defense depending on your composition. So that's something to think about and to really brainstorm. Honestly, I would save your Form of Soul if you're still on 1. Maybe if you're at 2, because you're getting enough from Celestial Stones, you may want it, but we'll see. A Spark for a Far Save might just be better for a better unit, or a Form of Soul on just a better armor in general might be worth considering. Next up is a Bound Hero battle that will feature Fallen Ike and Fallen Julia. I don't understand why they're sharing, but it's happening. So this does mean that Fallen Ike and Fallen Julia should be on a banner, plus someone else who knows what it might be. Or it might have been data mined, but I don't remember reading about it. So Fallen Ike is actually still a pretty solid unit, and he does synergize well with Unity skills, which have become a little bit more common, considering that Winter Altina comes back and will have Winter Attack Res Unity. That could also be a solid consideration. He can use Stance 3 skills very well for that guard effect, and he might get a Refine in the future. That Chaos Ragnall definitely might see a Refine, so there's just something to think about. If you were already using Fallen Ike, don't forget about him. He's actually really good of a unit and should continue to be a good unit for years to come. So this is a good banner to maybe think about, because that share with Fallen Julia is just another chance to pick up more fodder. Next up is Jorge's rerun. So this one's been waiting for a while, almost a full year actually, but he's finally back, and he's still pretty good. He actually aged very well. Decent support weapon, will likely get a refine in the future, has slaying in his weapon, and just fits really nicely as, like, his color is actually pretty good as being like a slaying potential Deadeye user who has a decent stat spread, and his rerun basically plus his party enables him to be picked up at plus 10 for like 1350 grails, which is a fairly good steal. So this is your chance for you Jorge fans to finally finish him, including me thinking about it, but I don't know yet because I want to kind of see what the CYL units come with them, what they might potentially bring, and maybe a better option in general. Next, we'll talk about the summer reruns. So this is Mia's rerun from a year ago. Mia's rerun, I don't... So the thing is with Mia is, I think she's actually fairly solid on most AR defenses, but the problem is she really leans on merges from my experience. Colorless on defense overlaps with a lot of things, like let's say a healer is also colorless, or maybe you have Bramimond, or, you know, just like the color itself isn't that great, and the weapon itself doesn't do enough because she doesn't have an impact effect, and therefore that has her get killed by units who have auto follow-ups, guard effects, and such. She's still a pretty solid unit though if you don't have a dual unit, which would seem pretty rare because honestly everyone should have had dual Lin by now unless you missed that. But she is pretty good for at least that, though she is outclassed by dual Sigurd. I think she's outclassed by good defenses that use dual Lif, but she's not bad, so maybe something to think about if you at least like her or need a solid unit on defense. She does synergize, I feel, well with Nott and Pathfinder in general, so maybe that's where it'll shine. Additionally, on the same banner though, we have Loot there, and I wanted to bring this to your attention because Loot is a 4-star focus blue flyer, and blue flying, blue dual flying is in the permanent pool. Some of you may have it already or may get it, and this is a solid thing to think about to get a ranged flyer that should age pretty well. Not free, of course, for an orb cost, but at a discount for a pretty solid unit. I don't see us getting a free range flyer for a while. I could be totally wrong, and maybe we get one literally next month, but the banner itself should last long enough maybe to at least see what's in the next banner and make a decision off of that, or if you like Loot, but definitely a solid candidate for, if not one of the best, from like F2P or discount units when it comes to the dual flying option. Next up is Tana's rerun. I'm going to call it that banner because she, as we've started seeing with the seasonal refines, it does mean that Tana will be due for one sooner than later, actually. And some of them have been really good, such as Halloween Noe, and some of them obviously haven't been as good because like Spring Shrena, but her base effect on her weapon is already pretty good. I can't remember whether it was guidance or aerobatics. You guys can refresh my mind on that, but either way, having mobility and your base effect of a tome should already set her up for pretty decent refine, if you ask me. Just like maybe even copy pasting some of the other like flyer tome effects or mobility effects already, which is like now teleport within 2 spaces of a unit as opposed to just 1. So if she gets even something like that, that could definitely bring her out of unviability, I guess. So yeah, that basically covers the reruns and new banners happening this, you guys just to think about. I do want to talk and speculate about the upcoming legendaries. So there haven't really been that many patterns with legendaries. Some of them have been fairly obvious, such as Ashera into Nott. I think that was a pretty solid prediction. And of course, I did actually predict Sigurd a while back. But I want to think about this time it being a female, so my prediction is going to be probably Caeda as my strongest prediction. However, I'm more uncertain on this one than I have been. The reason I think Caeda could be a pretty solid legendary is because we just haven't had any like mystery emblem candidates or representation lately, so it feels like Caeda could end up being a solid legendary at some point, but I think this could be the month for it. However, we could actually see Micaiah as well. She's long overdue for a legendary, but I feel they wouldn't do this because we just had a Shera, so that would kind of be like back-to-back Path of Radiance, Radiant Dawn representation. It doesn't mean it won't happen, but I just feel like it feels a little too soon now considering a Shera happened. So I'm more favoring Caeda being a solid legendary at the end of this month. Consider as well that it will be water. Not like that really matters anymore, but yeah, another candidate for a legendary who I don't think will happen this month, but is due for one at some point, just for the nature of having contrast with Ryoma, is Xander, of course. So, I mean, we already have Corrin, we have Ryoma, and you just have to have Xander at some point. I don't think it'll be this month, but he could definitely get one at some point, so look out for that. Maybe in like 2 months or 4 months from now, could definitely see it. They've been throwing, I don't even know if they would give him a sword, to be honest. Like, it feels like he might be like an axe cav legendary with like bulwark or something, just to add some spice, because we've had a lot of like sword cav legendaries at this point, so it feels a little odd that he might end up, you know, being that. Okay, folks, so that basically covers legendary speculation, most of the banners overall. One thing I want to definitely mention that strike out to me as a little bit different is there's a test of a Lance quest at the end, which I am not familiar with, and we have back-to-back Tempest Trials and back-to-back Seasonals, which isn't new by any means. We've had summer Seasonals back-to-back before, but that is a good setup potentially for a FEH channel at the beginning of the next month, end of this month timeline to see whether they will maybe add some new content or something to spice up the game, because otherwise the game is kind of on sleeper mode for now. Alright guys, that's it from me. Thank you for watching. As always, if you enjoy the content, smash the like button, sub if you haven't already. If you really want to see this stuff keep coming, consider the Patreon in the description below. Join Twitch. Prime subs are free. Love you all. See you in the next one. Peace.
It's over.